These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
Reckless speculation.
Oh, that's right. Reckless speculation. It never sleeps. And because of that, we come to you with the bonus edition of the Scoops podcast. Judd, Declan, the star of the show, the man of the hour. No, turn around, look at the camera. Darren Doogie Wolfson, Channel 5 Eyewitness News and Scoop podcast fame. And of course, he's on with us twice a week, although it will only be once because of Thanksgiving this week. Darren, how are you?
I'm doing okay, Judd. Hello, Declan. Judd, I am open-minded to going back and forth with you on Thursday. I can only take so much of my family, but I have a feeling you'll be about 4 Surleys in if we try to go back and forth at about noon on Thursday.
I won't be because I'll be covering the game that night. Vikings-Patriots game.
Yeah.
But Declan will. But Declan's busy, so
Declan's buzzed a little bit. You could still have a hottie-toddy. You could still. It's not like you need to head to U.S. Bank Stadium at 4 o'clock. You get there right before kickoff. I'm not suggesting to get bleep-faced.
Right.
Like, don't drink yourself into oblivion. Don't drink yourself, to the point of, praying to the porcelain god.
I'm too old for that
known
crap,
as the toilet in your bathroom in your
thank you
West Metro estate. I'm just
saying.
Thank
you for clarifying.
If you wanted to have a beer or two, you certainly could. But you're right. You're busy at night.
Yep.
So you don't necessarily have time early afternoon.
Asleep.
I was asked if I wanted to work on Thursday. Judd, unlike you, I said, nope. I want to drink on Thursday, so I'll be watching on TV. Very,
very nice. All right, let's start with the Scoops, and let's start with the Wolves, who beat a depleted Heat team at Target Center last night. I want to get your take on this, first of all. Rudy Gobert's comments post-game about being booed by the fans and how this whole thing is coming together. Because here's what I'll say in defense of fans. These fans have watched a lot of bad basketball. They finally have expectations. And I think you agree with me, and we've discussed this before, but I would say this to Rudy. Rudy, you would prefer to be booed and have some passion towards you than the overwhelming apathy, Darren, that we have seen directed at this Wolves team for years and years. I don't know that being booed is the worst thing in a building that has often been, although not now, empty, sterile, and filled with apathetic people.
I'm with you. Rudy Gobert is wrong. Anthony Edwards is right. Chris Finch is right. Finch is right when he says, you know what? You don't want to be booed? Play better.
Yep.
Anthony Edwards has certainly, pointed out some of the booing at some of the earlier home games, not necessarily last night, but he hasn't said what Rudy said. Simply play better. You think about the Miami Heat. They played a game the night before. It's a depleted roster. Now, it's not like the Wolves need to apologize for winning all these games, but let's go back 9 days in Cleveland. No Donovan Mitchell, no Jared Allen. Let's be realistic. If those two guys play, I don't think the Wolves win that game. In Orlando, no Paolo Banchero, no Wendell Carter Jr. Still think the Wolves win the game, but fair to point out that Orlando is down 2 of its 3 or 4 best players. We can debate Carter Jr., but he's having a decent year. Then you play in Philadelphia over the weekend. No James Harden, no Tyrese Maxey, no Tobias Harris. Then you play Miami last night. No Jimmy Butler, no Tyler Hero. Right, so we're still wondering how good this Wolves team is. 9-8, but guess what? A couple years ago, Judd, before Ryan Saunders got fired, the Wolves were 10-8. They were 9-8, then they won that next game. They were 10-8. Now, they were also 9-8 going back to the 03-04 season, right? So it can go any number of ways. Sure. If you look at the Western Conference standing, 17, 18 games in, it is a jumbled mess, right? It's like 1 or 2 games separating 4th and like 11th or 12th. But the schedule sets up nicely, at least the next couple days. Now, I get it. Indiana is actually playing at a pretty high level. They've won a bunch of games in a row. But if you are a good team, a really good team, you should win tomorrow night at Indiana. Then Charlotte on Friday. The Hornets have been really, really bad. I get it. Ball was out for a good amount of those games. But I just wonder at some point if Charlotte looks to pivot, looks to, be a lottery team, not a play-in team, or a playoff team. But I get it. Friday could be tricky. Early game, Black Friday. It's not a night game. It's an afternoon game. So I get it. Body clock-wise, Friday could be tricky. But the Wolves should extend this winning streak to 6. Then we'll head into Sunday's game against the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors have not been good on the road. They finally got a road win the other day in Houston, but they've been a train wreck on the road. I'm just saying, if we want to really take this Wolves team seriously, at least extend this winning streak to 6, maybe even 7 with a win over the Warriors on Sunday. On Gobert, by the way, Judd, how about last night? He only received 11 passes. He is a complete non-factor on offense. Now, going back to July, I was all in on a big-time move. I might have preferred DeJounte Murray. They clearly had discussions with the Spurs, but weren't willing to go quite all in like Atlanta did. But I wasn't anti the Wolves swinging for the fences. But so far, Judd, that trade has been a complete disaster. If you think about all the first-round picks, if you think about the way Beasley, Vanderbilt, right, are playing for the Utah Jazz, right? Like, if you could go back, like, I'd be hard-pressed to find a bunch of Wolves fans that would say, you know what, yeah, I would still make that trade. Like, knowing what we now know, I think just about everybody would say, give me Walker Kessler, who looks like he certainly has a pulse. Give me Jared Vanderbilt, that energy. Give me Malik Beasley shooting. You know, the Wolves have shot a little bit better the last couple games, but the first 11, 12, 13 games, they could have used Malik Beasley shooting. And certainly give me back that 2023 first-round pick and all those first-round picks. Now, the final chapter hasn't been written. Let's see how this thing plays out. But I'm just saying, this is a relatively large sample size now of 17 games.
Yep.
The trade has been a disaster.
All right, so let's unpack that a little bit then. What has to happen here? Like, what do you need to see? And have you seen any progress to get it from disaster to at least questionable? Like, it's not going to go from disaster to great. What have you seen, and where are we as far as the work in progress of this whole thing, do you think?
Well, I mean, at 30 years old, like, is there another level to Gobert's offensive game? Like, I just don't know if there is. I certainly want to see more blocked shots, you know, more of him being a rim protector. He has been, but I think there's more there, certainly based on his stats the last few years. There certainly is more there.
Sure.
I also want Cat to fully embrace being a 4, especially when he's on the court with Gobert. He just really isn't. Like, I think about a number of rebounds where Gobert grabs the rebound, but instead of Cat getting out and running, it's like Cat is waiting. Like, Cat is so programmed, and I'm not necessarily slamming Cat for this, Judd. Like, after 7 years, he's so programmed, grab the rebound, make the outlet pass, right? So instead of having 4 guys out, there's been a handful of possessions. It's like 2 a game, 3 a game, but you add that up over time, it makes an impact, where Cat is almost like waiting, like, oh, no, this is my rebound, not yours,
right,
Rudy. So I still need Cat to fully embrace being a 4-man. But I just wonder at this point, outside of, you know, catching the occasional lob, you know, and slamming it home, like, really, do you think? I mean, I'm just saying, Judd, what am I missing? Is there more there? Like, Chris Finch told us they wanted to unearth more of Gobert's offensive game, which made sense. When you give up all those assets, you can't just trade for a defensive stopper. The guy has to make an impact on the other end. So they're trying. I just wonder, like, what more is there? Like, at this point, I have serious questions about that.
All right, let's go to the Vikings. What do we know about as bad as that game was, okay? The Cowboys game, complete train wreck, and it's done now. And I certainly hope that the Vikings, especially the coaching staff, can take away some things that they learned and can tweak or change. But let's talk about what I think is the genuine concern going forward, or it's concern one to me, injuries. Darrisaw is not going to play. You're now depleted at corner with Dantzler on IR, and I think he has to miss at least 2 more games. Evans, the 4th-round pick, stepped in. He then suffered a concussion. So Andrew Booth Jr. started on Sunday, and I thought was atrocious and got picked on, and in no way, shape, or form appears prepared to help, which is a damn shame because he is a 2nd-round pick. Dalvin Tomlinson is practicing now. What can you tell us? Let's start with what I think is the absolute key here. Darrisaw. 2nd concussion. My guess, totally guessing, is he's probably out a month. But what have you heard there? Because there's no easy replacement for a left tackle who, in my opinion, was tracking to probably be an all-pro player. Like, he's that good.
He is that good. I knew this topic would come up, so I sent a note 30 minutes ago, Judd.
Love it.
Somebody I trust, somebody who knows Darrisaw well, somebody who has been in contact with Darrisaw told me, quote, he said, quote, Shitty. I don't know if I can say that word officially, so I'll just spell it out. But we'll be all right. So Darrisaw is still feeling Shitty, but feels like he'll be all right. But yes, Judd, it certainly is tracking toward, not just a 1-game absence, right? Like, I don't think all of a sudden at this point he's out there on December 4th when suffering a 2nd concussion in just a couple weeks. But I also don't think this is a season-ending type injury. But then again, we're talking about the brain, right? I think some people forget that. A concussion is a brain injury. When you explain it like that, it can be incredibly tricky. But yes, they need to plan as if he's going to be out for a little bit of time. On Dalvin Tomlinson, Judd, they actually thought, I had a couple people over there suggest to me that they thought he'd be back for the Dallas game. And so I guess I'm not overly shocked that the Vikings put out an injury report on Monday, didn't practice, but it was as if they would have practiced. Right. And he was listed as a participator, right? I don't remember if it was limited or full. I think it was limited, but that was progress because he was DNP for a number of practices. Like once on last Thursday, he was a DNP. Okay, we knew at that point after not practicing Wednesday, Thursday, he wasn't going to play against Dallas. But heading into the week, there was a bit of optimism. Remember, they would have made the IR move if they thought he was going to miss 4 games, right? So this would be game 4. He missed the Washington game, the Buffalo game, the Dallas game. So he is tracking to at least be able to do something. Another concern is the Za'Darius Smith knee.
Yes.
That I don't expect to see him for 55 or 60 snaps on Thursday night. It might be something comparable to what we saw on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And Sunday went sideways quickly, so maybe that skewed things a little bit. But he was only on the field for 15 to 20-ish snaps, 22 snaps, something like that. So I expect something along those lines again for Za'Darius Smith. On Cam Dantzler, there is hope that he will be back. I had somebody tell me to check on that he won't be back. I have not heard that be back this year. So as far as I know, there is optimism that he can return at some point, but I can't tell you that it'll be that 5th game after sitting out the 4 with the IR stint or whenever they put him on IR, then missing 4. I can't sit here and tell you it'll be that 5th game that he'll be back. Caleb Evans is like at stage 4. Like he's able to at least be on the field, run, do some stuff. If you want to track it comparable to Christian Darrisaw, Evans is where Darrisaw was last Thursday. Then the next day, he was fully cleared. Darrisaw was. So we'll keep an eye on that later today if a Caleb Evans gets fully cleared. I wouldn't at this point necessarily rule him out for Thursday. Still need to glean a little bit more information on that front. But you're right. Like for the first time, these absences on Sunday really, really reared their ugly heads. I mean, you're right. Dallas just took advantage of no Dantzler, no Caleb Evans, picked on Andrew Booth Jr. left and right. You think about the running game, missing Dalvin Tomlinson. I thought they missed Dalvin in the first half of the Buffalo game, but they rebounded nicely against the run in that game. Yep. Certainly missed Tomlinson on Sunday. Then you think about Brendel coming in and, he got abused just like a number of those offensive linemen got abused left and right. He was fine in the Buffalo game, playing 39-ish snaps, had the 1 penalty, might have given up 1 pressure, but he was overmatched, right? Tough spot,
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm not necessarily faulting him, now with a, sort of a full week of preparation, at least, in his mind, knowing for multiple days, hey, I am starting this next game. We can wait and see if it changes. But, you probably know the numbers better than I do. I mean, this Patriots defense is as good as Dallas, or just about, when it comes to generating pressure. Maybe not overall as good as Dallas, right? But in terms of generating pressure, they are really, really good.
Yep.
Right. And so are the Jets, the game after that. Right. So you think about the next couple of weeks, the possibility that Darrisaw misses at least the next couple games. I'm positive we'll notice his absence. I would like to see CJ Ham in there a little bit more. I just think there's more there. Right. So if you need to keep him in there more, I'd like to see them run a little bit more. They tried to establish the run on Sunday, but I think there's a little bit more there. I get it, pass first offense, but can you skew it a little bit more closer to 50-50, not 60-40 pass? So I think there are some strategic things they can do that they will do to change things up on Thursday. But certainly CJ Ham, I mean, that's one that comes to mind. Like, I think there's more there that Kevin can utilize.
From all sides, coaching, playing, the Vikings lost control of that game quickly and couldn't get it back, right? So like, you're right. I mean, they fell behind, and so they felt that they had to pass. But as Jefferson said too, the problem is they didn't adjust to the pressure on Kirk. So Kirk's getting, and I actually advocated, I said, after the Cowboys scored early in the second half to take a 30-3 lead at that point in time.
Get Kirk out at that point.
You
stayed in a series too long. Series.
You play on Thursday. This game is done. Don't get him hurt. I was not saying bench him. I was saying bench him to save him. Because it's not like he's playing well and the team is struggling. He's getting hammered. And so I thought that just across the board from O'Connell on down, Dukes, I thought that game got out of control. And it was the first time that we've seen that O'Connell really didn't look like he had any answers to, like, at least try and hang in there. And once Hawkinson didn't catch that pass that I think would have given the Vikings an early lead in the first quarter, that series, they were basically just dead, and everybody from O'Connell on down had a really bad day.
I spoke with TJ Hawkinson in the locker room post-game. I mean, he owned up, right? I mean, he faced the music. I had to ask the question. He said, that's just not me. Very disappointed. I'll make that catch next time. Yeah, they would have gone up. That was the Vikings' second possession where they end up with the field goal.
7-3.
They would have gone up if he holds on to it.
Yep.
They would have gone up 7-3. Not sure the outcome of the game would have been any different, but the way the game played out, I think, could have been much different. How about the revenge factor for Quinn, for Moore, the Cowboys coordinators? Both guys interviewed virtually for the Vikings head coaching job in January. Neither was asked for a second interview. That had to feel really, really good for those Dallas Cowboys coordinators.
Yeah, and what transpired on the sidelines between Dalvin Cook and George Edwards, who was Zim's DC here, who clearly said something to Cook.
Yeah, I still need to follow up. I was looking for Dalvin in the locker room post-game. He might have spoken to somebody, but I never saw him.
Okay.
Right, so I didn't have an opportunity. I only worked the Vikings locker room on Sunday. I did not head over to the Dallas side, even though I know Coach Edwards, a little bit. At least I could have seen him and maybe pulled him off to the side to get a little bit of insight. Now, those close to Dalvin will tell you that this was on Edwards. He started the whole thing. He initiated it. Dalvin was just, responding like almost any human being would have done in that situation. But yeah, I mean, you think about the idea of getting a taunting penalty when you're down 27 points or 30 points, about as laughable as it gets.
Yes. On Za'Darius Smith, what do we know about this knee now? Because I mean, it's been an ongoing problem. He's not a young guy. And I certainly would think that if they have taken steps now to try and keep him on the field, that it's going to be a continual thing because he can't rest. What do we know about the severity of this and about where things stand? Because I would guess that he's not going to recover until he gets some time off. And of course, that's not going to come till after the season's done.
Exactly. That's why you'll see Jones, you'll see Wanham in there for a number of snaps for the rest of the regular season. Now, hopefully that first playoff game, I still see the Vikings in the playoffs. I still think there's a 90% chance they're making the playoffs. So whether that's as the 2 seed, 3 seed, or 4 seed, that first home playoff game in mid-January, let's see where the knee is at that point. I think the idea is, okay, let's think that long term.
Okay.
Let's do whatever we can to ensure that Za'Darius can be on the field a good portion of that first playoff game. So whatever we need to do these next few weeks, the rest of the regular season, we'll manage his workload, his snaps, his practice workload until then. But we want him as close to 100%. But you're right. I mean, he won't be 100% until sometime after the season when he can fully rest. But the Vikings' idea is, hey, let's gear him up. Let's get him ready for mid-January.
Last one on the Vikes for me, Dukes. Justin Jefferson. Our friend Tom Pelissero reported, I think it was on Sunday, that he's dealing with a slight case of turf toe. Now, turf toe sounds simple, but it's actually extremely painful. Jefferson told Tom it's not going to slow me down. But what have you heard there? Because I will say this, for a player with turf toe, that again is going to linger. And I wouldn't say that it should be dismissed. I'm not saying that it's going to derail a season, but I think it at least probably should be addressed that the Vikings' best player is dealing with something that could potentially slow him down.
Yeah, I mean, fair to address it, Judd, but, talking point-wise on the injury front, I still put that below a number of the other guys we've discussed. I don't foresee Justin being limited on Thursday night. I don't foresee him being limited against the Jets on December 4th. Right now, we can watch, how is he running? How is he cutting? If we want to go Zapruder film on it, really break down snap by snap how he looks. I'm sure maybe you'll do that on the All 22. I'll trust your word on that. I don't think I'm going to do that much of a deep dive on it. I'm led to believe what has been reported. I think we touched on this last Thursday that he'll be fine. Maybe not 100% fine, but I'm just telling you, there's plenty of things to worry about, especially coming off Sunday if you're a Vikings fan.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily worry about Justin Jefferson's turf toe.
All right, where do things stand between the Twins and Carlos Correa? Is there an update on the Twins' pursuit to keep the all-star shortstop?
Well, yeah, I mean, they're pursuing that possibility hard. I was at the Mall of America for the fashion show on Friday with the new uniforms, spoke with a number of people on the record and on background, but even on the record, especially Dave St. Peter, president, CEO, he was pretty open, right? If talks were, completely down the drain, would he have been as open as he was? So, they're trying, Judd. Here's what I believe. I firmly believe this. This isn't just me guessing, by the way. This is sourced out plenty. They are going to make him a very rich offer. They are very open-minded to multiple player options. So whether that's a 7-year deal, 8-year deal, you give them an opt-out, not after the 23 season. They're not going through the song and dance again 1 year from now, but maybe as soon as after the 24 season or at least the 25 season, but multiple player options, full no trade. But in the end, do I believe that the Twins will make Correa the richest offer? I don't. This is something I said in the summer. I'll reiterate it now. The Chicago Cubs really, really like Carlos Correa. I foresee the Chicago Cubs signing one of these shortstop free agents. The Cubs have all sorts of money. It could also be the Giants. If the Giants swing and miss on Aaron Judge, who's visiting them right now, if Judge ultimately lands back with the Yankees, the Giants are going to spend money. So if Correa is just looking for a money grab, it's hard to foresee that happening here. His wife really liked it here. He really liked it here. He had a suite. He purchased a suite at Target Field. So some people close to Carlos were in constant communication with some Twins folks. I hear that relationship was just really, really good. He's being genuine when he says he really, really enjoyed the 2022 season, really enjoyed living here in Minnesota. But if it's just money, if it comes down to just money, it's not going to be here. The Twins are willing to pay him a lot of money, but it'll have to be some of that other stuff that wins him over. It's not going to be the biggest money offer that he gets.
When do you think it might happen by? Just a decision.
Well, the Twins would like closure sooner rather than later, but, with his representation, this thing could spread, certainly past the winter meetings. but I wouldn't be shocked if we have news, one way or another before January 1st. I mean, plenty of free agents sign in January, but I guess I wouldn't be overly shocked because there's been enough dialogue, right? I mean, not just with the Twins, but with, some of those teams that I mentioned. I'm sure some other teams that, at some point all this chatter turns into a full-fledged offer. In fact, Judd, I wouldn't be shocked. I don't know this for sure, but I wouldn't be shocked. Maybe it's semantics, but either the Twins have made that big offer already, or at least the parameters were discussed at the GM meetings last week or 10 days ago, whenever that was, in the last, handful of weeks. So, the chatter's been there. It's continuing. So that's why it's hard for me to see this thing stretching another 6 to 8 weeks, that I'd like to think there's closure in the next 4-ish weeks.
How is Byron Buxton's health, and why is he brawling with trolls on Twitter?
You know what? That was one. I mean, I saw it, right? I checked Instagram, and so I saw that he had a back and forth, and, I figured it was him, right? But I had to ask. And so, yeah, when I chatted with Byron on Friday, that's my point. But we're all guilty, right? Like, Judd, how many times do I get into it with some troll? Right? There's nothing for me to win.
Yeah, you do get into it with them. That's true.
And so, I can't lecture Byron for doing something that I'm guilty of doing myself. But he couldn't help himself. He was pissed off, right? I mean, his point is, are you a fan or are you not a fan? On his health, he was just cleared to fully run on Friday. He's got a trainer that he works with, independent of anybody with the Twins, down south. But that person is in constant contact with the Twins. The Twins will also send some of their staff members to watch him do some of his off-season workouts. It is trending that, that first day the Twins are on the field in, mid to late February in Fort Myers, that Byron will be able to do everything that he needs to do, that he won't be held back at that point.
So is this chronic, or that's the thing I don't get, because if I recall correctly, Doogie, Baldelli used the word at one point chronic, which to me means it's not going away, that to some point it's going to continue to be a problem. Do we have clarification there? Because if it's not chronic, at least it probably can be fixed. If it is, you'll try to get by, but it'll creep up again almost certainly at some point.
Well, yeah. I mean, let's not forget Byron got hurt in Boston in mid-April, right? And he was fighting through it and
it was hurting before that. And it got worse in
many
Boston.
Months.
Yeah.
Now, maybe I need to do a follow-up interview, whether that's at Twins Fest in January or if I can track him down prior to that. But, I'm led to believe that he really feels like this latest surgery is going to fix things to the point of he's going to be able to do what he needs to do.
All right.
And, is that 25 stolen bases or whatever it is? Is that, chasing down every fly ball in center field? We can have those conversations later as it plays out. But I'm led to believe that he really feels like this latest surgery, the one that took place in early October, is going to get him as close to 100% as humanly possible.
Final scoops. Give them to us.
Well, where would you like to go, Judd? The Gopher football season, the biggest disappointment of PJ's 6. I'm not suggesting any sort of firing, anything crazy like that. But man alive. Just Saturday was the cherry on top of this turd of a season. I mean, heck, if they finish with a loss on Saturday, the Big Ten record will be 4-5. The Big Ten West is the weakest division in all of Power 5. The schedule could not have set up any easier. This veteran-laden team. Mm-hmm. Oh, my gosh. But in terms of NFL scouts, the Packers and Vikings and Colts and Dolphins and Chargers were there on Saturday. Until I hear otherwise. I mean, we talked about this in this spot last Tuesday or maybe Thursday. Signs at that point were pointing toward Ethan Kalakmanis starting against Iowa. Until I hear otherwise, it certainly appears as if Ethan will get another start in Madison.
Will they let him throw
on Saturday? I know.
Are they going to?
I don't hold it against Ethan that after 14 or 15 consecutive runs, then you ask him to complete a pass. I'm not shocked that pass ended up in an interception. Heck, as weird as this sounds, with that vanilla offense at 3rd and 7, I would have just taken my chances with Mo, right?
Is that Fleck?
The fumble was a mirage. He doesn't fumble. That was so weird.
Is that Fleck?
Sure, that's Fleck.
But I mean, where's
I don't think
Soraka?
Soraka necessarily buys into how they're doing things. Right now, there are limitations. These wide receivers don't necessarily create separation.
Yeah.
Are those offensive linemen great in pass protection? There's a lot that goes into it, right? But sure, do I think that Kirk Shiraka would like to open things up more? Sure, with maybe some different personnel eventually, right? Dip into the portal, whatever, for next year.
Yep.
Yes, I do believe that.
All right, Darren. Thank you, and we'll talk to you next week. Enjoy your beverages on Thanksgiving.
Absolutely. I went down the rabbit hole of Googling some new concoctions, some new mixed drinks. So yeah, I'm gonna put my mixology skills to work on
Drink Surly
on Thursday. Nah, I love Surly. Sure, love it, Judd.
It.
But no, I'm gonna go mixed drinks.
All right,
on Thursday. So happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Gobble gobble.
Okay, see you boys. Have a great Thursday. See ya.